Hey guys, we're going to do a Rushdown review for Crystar for the PlayStation 4. This game was developed by Jim Drops, who is a fairly unknown but really interesting indie developer, and it was published by Spike Chunsoft and Furyu. This game, I can't really put into words a lot of how I feel about this game. It's way more involved emotionally than I expected. When I originally went into playing this, I was like, oh, it's going to be your fun, typical, magical girl experience, and it was way more than I ever could have imagined as far as the narrative is concerned. I think this may be one of my top favorite stories I've seen in the last 10 years, honestly. It's on the same level I would put with games of from Falcom, Trails of Cold Steel, Trails in the Sky, games like that. I think I put this in the same category with that as far as the story is concerned. I think this is probably one of the greater narratives for a JRPG I've seen in such a long time. I think it's so well written and just such a unique experience, but it's such a familiar experience at the same time. And it was quite an emotional journey playing this game too, and just gets to the point where I wanted to actually put together a review for this, because I felt like it was going to be a little difficult because I was so trapped in the emotional part of this game and I couldn't able to get out of it. But I think now I've had time to let it soak in and able to really be alone with my thoughts with this game and able to bring a really good review for this. So let's just get started. Hopefully this is not go into a really long, drawn out stream of consciousness, but it may happen, so I'm just telling you that right now off the bat, because I have so much to say about this game, so I kind of want to get all those ideas and thoughts out. So hopefully you just can go on this journey with me with this review. So alright, let's get the basics out the way. This is I would say, action RPG dungeon crawler. That's probably the best way to sum it up, as far as what type of game it is. And in terms of story, this game was actually written by the scenario was written by one of the people that wrote Canon. I think it's a really, I won't say old, it's one of those retro animes that came out a long time ago, back in the 90s. And I know that particular series is really emotional and really emotionally driven, so it makes sense that this game has that same feel as far as the writing is concerned. The main story is that your character, Rei Hatada, is somehow trapped in Purgatory through really weird and mysterious means. And she's not alone. She is trapped there with her sister as well. And unfortunately, her and her sister their souls end up being kind of, I don't want to say torn apart, but kind of just their physical form becomes disassociated from their souls. It's kind of hard to explain exactly. It's one of the things you have to just see in game. So you're running around with your soul in the very, very beginning. You're trying to figure out, find your subconscious at that point, because you're still losing it the more you're in Purgatory. Once she finds it, finally, she gets reunited with her sister for a short, brief time, but through some really unfortunate events, her sister Mirai is taken from her and is trapped in Purgatory. And in order to save her, she has to find her soul and get revival from the Demon Sisters. The Demon Sisters said they will grant her, they said they will revive her sister if they make a contract with Rei. Rei has to become an executor, which is a cool way of saying you're just you work for us. You are going to be our magical girl who goes and kills all the demons and stuff in Purgatory. Purgatory is having an issue with revenants, which are the demons in this game. The revenants are overrunning it, and they're leaking out into the real world, and they're doing a lot of crazy stuff. So, and of course, the Demon Sisters don't really feel like doing the dirty work, so they just hire these girls who need their help at the time in order to do it. So of course, they're in Purgatory. They're like, oh well, you just figure your sister. We need somebody to clean up Purgatory. So we'll get your sister back if you clean up Purgatory for us. So that's pretty much the contract. And your main objective at the very beginning is just to kill demons and clean up Purgatory for the Demon Sisters, to hope that you'll have enough Idia to revive your sister if you find her in time. That's one stipulation as well. If a soul goes through Purgatory after like 51 days, they end up going to the final part of Purgatory, which is the lowest part of it, called the Cause of Renewal. And in this place is where all the souls go and become reborn again. But unfortunately, when you're reborn, you don't remember your past life or your other subconscious that you had. So you pretty much become a brand new person. And her descent into Purgatory is pretty much trying to like get to Mirai before she goes to the Cause of Renewal and becomes a new person. Her soul gets reborn somewhere else. So that's the gist of it. And it's quite a journey getting there. But you're not alone, because there are other girls who have unfortunate incidents that happen and have to become executors as well under the supervision of the Demon Sisters. You get 3 other characters, all with their own individual backstories, all their individual arcs. And I would have to say the writing for the characters is really good. I think each girl, even though on the surface level they appear to be like, you know, your anime tropes and archetypes, but as you go through the game, you start to see them have layers to them and much more nuance to them than your normal everyday, like cookie cutter, Crunchyroll anime type of girl, which is good, because in the beginning you definitely can like write them off. Oh, that's that type of girl. That's the tsundere girl. That's the yandere girl. Whatever other one you want to put. But they actually do evolve and change as the game progresses. And a lot of dialogue is really good too. I found myself just really completely drawn to how they like wrote the script, because it's like the way they talk is how normal people talk. It's not like how games just overly emphasize. A lot of JRPGs, unfortunately, they have a really hard time with just getting to the point of conversations. And I feel like this game did a good job of getting to the point. Like a lot of conversations that they have with the characters in the game are just right to the point. They're straightforward and they get right to the heart of what's going on. They don't go into these long meandering like monologues and stuff. It's really down to earth type of writing, and I really appreciate that, because it makes the game not only more accessible, it makes it more engaging, because you feel more attached to the characters and what they're saying and what's going on and how they're presenting it. So yeah, dialogue was definitely spot on. The voice acting, really good. I actually listened to the Japanese and the English voice acting. I prefer the English one because I feel like the characterizations change drastically when you switch the voice acting. Rei sounds much younger when she's in Japanese than she does in her English voice. Her English voice sounds like a girl her age, whereas I think the Japanese voiceover sound a little bit younger, like just borderline like maybe 12, 13, like a very young, maybe even like 11-ish. And it kind of changes the way the story is told, because I feel like Rei's English voice is really strong and it has a lot of character to it, and it has a lot of weight. Even though it's girly, it just has a lot of like strength to it. I feel like the Japanese one doesn't have as much strength. It's very like light and airy and cutesy, and I think that's just not the type of character that Rei is. Especially when you read dialogue. But that gives me a preference for me. You may like the Japanese dialogue. I think it's really well done. A lot of characters sound similar to their English ones, except a couple of characters sound a lot different. But overall, the voice acting, either one is really good. So it's up to your personal preference. I say try both and see which one you like more if you're playing this. Alright. We covered the story, covered some of the characters. You get 4 in total. That includes Rei. Let's see, you get Kokoro, who's like the punching girl. She does karate. She's a little bit older, she's like 21. You get this other girl named Sin. She's more of a really studious girl. She's a student council president. Well, she's part of student council. I think she's the president, even though she should be, because she's really studious. And you get the other girl can come Nanana, and she's like your bubbly, over the top cat girl. So do what you want with that information. But I feel like they really have a really good core team dynamic and really like good chemistry. Like their interactions are really good. The way they talk to each other is really good. It's really dramatic. That's one thing about the game that's really important to note is it's a really dramatic game. It has a lot of dramatic effects for a lot of stuff as far as like the writing is concerned and how things are set up. And a lot of it's done like a old type of like tragedy drama, like a Shakespearean drama. There we go. It kind of feels like that in the way some of the stuff is written. But that's not a bad thing. Just kind of like something that I noticed while I was playing it. Alright, so let's go into like the gameplay. That's really important. So this is a dungeon crawler mostly. So you don't do a lot of like, there's no world map to explore. There's no like towns to visit. It's pretty much either you're in your room in the real world, or you're in Purgatory fighting and stuff. So there's not that many places to go and all that stuff. In Purgatory, there are 7 levels of Purgatory. Each one has a very distinct look to them, and I really appreciate the attention to detail when it comes to how the game looks, because this game looks really pretty, and the art direction is so well done. Like this is the aesthetic they use for this game is just really, really pretty and really good presentation. And I love the fact this game isn't like pushing the envelope of like high fidelity, ultra realistic graphics, but it's pushing the envelope when it comes to art direction and color usage and color theory and just like placements of things and how things come together and how they use art. It's just really well done. It's definitely a person who spent a lot of time developing not only the character designs but just like the level designs and how everything looks. Even Ray's room is like a work of art to me. It's so well done. It's so meticulous, and each individual detail is just so there. It's just so incredible to look at, and I'm incredibly impressed by the presentation for this game. It's just so well done. It's just I love the UI. It looks really good. The character models look pretty well. I think the art direction itself is just so exquisite. Like I love it. I think this is what more games should do, is try to find an art style that matches them and works for them, and just go with it. Just go all the way out with it. Like just go completely nuts with it. I think this game did a good job of doing that, because it had this really like gothic Lolita kind of like bubble goth thing going, and it just worked so well for this game. So shout out to Gem Drops for this, because they just took it there visually. The animations are really good, even though when you're actually fighting, the animation for fights and stuff and your attacks look a little stiff for certain characters. I did feel like the gameplay probably maybe the least well executed part of this game. So the main thing is that you get a weak attack, you get a strong attack, which is mapped to square and triangle. You have a jump button, you have a dodge button, you have your summon your guardian button, and that's mainly the main ones you're going to be using. Your main melee attack, you like a 4-hit combo melee attack, and then you can switch between the heavy and the weak attack to do different strings. You got like a small launcher, launch them in the air, but that's kind of hit or miss because some monsters can't be launched in the air anyway, so you won't be using it that much. And when you're in the air, you could definitely jump cancel to do like a little air combo, but it's nothing really extravagant. I would say the combat is really basic. It's nothing out of this world. It's nothing crazy. Even when you get the extra characters and their different play styles, it definitely doesn't push the envelope as far as gameplay is concerned. It's really rudimentary, but thankfully the game isn't that long, so it doesn't overstay its welcome, so you don't get too upset about the repetitiveness, because it does get repetitive after a while. You're gonna be doing pretty much the same thing for a long period of time. Like your combos aren't going to change very much. You do get new special attacks, which you map to the different face buttons, and you combine that with the R1 button, and you get them sparingly, but you don't get a whole lot of special attacks. So you're going to be using the same attacks for quite a bit of the game, so just sit tight with those attacks for a while. Let's see. I do enjoy the fact that the game is really fast paced. you get a pretty good walk. She has a pretty good walk speed. Honestly, all the characters have good walk speeds. And then you have a little like sprint. The sprint is so fast. Like you can get through the areas really, really quickly. Like if you're trying to get from point A to point B, you can just like zoom through there, like just crazily, just really fast. I love how fast paced it is. Each map you have to map yourself. So once you get to a new area, you have to pretty much go into all the areas to get the map filled, which I thought was a good idea in the beginning, but unfortunately, the game has a really bad idea with backtracking. Like it's really bad. Like it's not my favorite part of this game because you have to backtrack and you don't get any type of like you're backtracking a lot. Like the last 3 chapters to redo a good 3-4 times. So get used to chapter 6 through 8 because you're gonna do those chapters probably the most. And that's probably my least favorite thing about this entire game is the backtracking and redoing. And it's all for story elements. This is all for actual like reason. And once you actually get through it, it all makes sense. Like, okay, that's why I had to do it this many times. And it's a pretty convincing argument of why you had to. It's just the getting there part is just so hard. Thankfully, there is a difficulty button, difficulty option, so you can go from, if you play on normal, you want to just like speed through the backtracking parts, you can just put on easy. One of the negatives, another one, is that there's no skip button for cutscenes. There's no skip button for dialogue. You just have to just like press X repeatedly, which I was upset about. I think they should have added a skip button or something, but I think they wanted you to see how the game plays out the next time you do it. If there's new dialogue added to this and you're doing the same part over again. So I think that makes sense because they want you to not miss anything, but some parts they could just like, I don't know, just some way like a skip forward button or a fast forward button or something to just get speed through some of these parts you have to redo over again. So it wasn't my favorite part. Let's see, I got through, the combat, story. Let's talk about some other mechanics. So one of the main things about this game, which is the fact it's called Crystar, is that crying is a very important part of this game. Not only inside the story, but within the context of gameplay. Within the story, when the characters cry, they cry out Idia, which is this crystallized forms of emotions that the demon sisters love and want. And actually, you need Idia. You need strong amounts of Idia, strong Idia to revive Mirai, which I talked about earlier. And within the game, within the actual within the game itself, crying is helpful for 2 reasons. One, in order to purify torment. I'll get to that in a second. The other is to fill up your tear gauge, which you need that in order to summon your guardian spirit. Your guardian spirit doesn't do a whole lot. It helps you mostly when you're low at life. When your HP's low, he may come out and counter for you, or he may block for you, or he may attack an enemy for you. Not that helpful. It doesn't come out that much. I wish it would come out a lot more. But once you fill your tier gauge up, you're able to summon them and they come out and they help you attack for a short amount of time. Then you're able to use your super move, and then that's all cool and flashy and useful. But other than that, the guardian spirits aren't that big of a game changer for me personally. I didn't think they changed much. It kind of helped, but they didn't really like turn the tides of the battle that much. Let's see, crying. So within the game, you're fighting these revenants. Some of the revenants actually have these things called torments. These is pretty much the negative emotions they carry with them when they died, and they are crystallized to like these red crystals. And you take those in. When you take those in, it takes in the negative emotions too. So she can only take in so much of that negative emotion, and she has to release it. And how do you release negative emotions? You cry it out. So by crying, she turns negative emotions into positive emotions, which are called sentiments. Your sentiments are your equipment. They're your weapons. They're your armor. They're your accessories. So it's really important to make sure you get as many of them as you possibly can. You can also fuse your sentiments. You can modify your sentiments. So yeah, that's like a really important part of this game. Let's see, what else is really important for this game? Let's talk about music. I think the music was really good too. I enjoy a lot of the music tracks. They fit the game really well. I love the opening theme. It's called Can Cry by, I think it's Nagi Yana or Yana Nagi. And the other song is called Relive. That's the ending theme for the game. And they're really well done tracks. They're incredible. Like, I'm glad they picked those. They fit the game really well. The actual in-game music is really well done. They fit each particular locale you're in. It's just a really lovely part of the game. The music is really spot on. Overall, this game was such an emotional journey for me because I went over a little bit of the actual like story, but the story is so intricate and just so layered with so much happening and so much drama and just so much like heartfelt moments that it really took a lot out of me. A lot of time I was playing, like I had to take a break for it because it was really emotional. It was getting to me. Like I was crying a couple of times while I played this. It was just like, wow, this really happened, or wow, this is really screwed up, or this is really incredible, this is really sad. Like it evoked such emotion out of me, and I just feel like that was important. That was a part of the game. Like for a game to be called Crystar and because basically Ray's doing emotional labor with the torments and stuff and having to take those in and having to cry them out all the time. Like that's real life type of psychology about self-care and emotional labor and all that stuff. And I love they put that actually in the game because it's really integral to the game. That's actually integral to life itself too. Is being able to take in your emotions and be able to get that stuff out. Like getting your bad emotions out is important, but for her to take in so much like negative emotions throughout the game is really taxing. Like I know she was like incredibly spent like when she was in the game. Like Ray, I feel like is a really strong character. She's really well written. All the characters in the game are well written. The plot's really good. The villains are probably some of the worst villains as far like, I say worse as in like they're just terrible people. Like they're just like the most insidious people I've ever seen in the game, and they're really well written. Like they're like, you really hate them at the end. Like you are the scum of the earth, well, the scum of like everything. You're terrible. So really good job with the writing. The writing is probably the best part about this game. The writing, the art style, all that stuff, great. Gameplay could be a little bit better, could be a little bit more sophisticated, could be a little bit more intricate, a little more complex, a little more added to it. I think that there's some room for growth. If they start making another game, hopefully Jim Johnson kind of keeps this art style, because I like that this is really bright and colorful and flashy, but still kind of like grim and a little insidious and kind of creepy in a way too. I don't know, but yeah, those are my thoughts on Crystar. I really love this game a lot. I recommend it for people who love magical girl stories, who love really good emotional driven stories. Like this is a very narrative heavy game, but it's not narrative heavy as far as like, it's heavy emotionally. It's not heavy like you have to read so much text and stuff. Like you can pretty much get through this game. It's about a 30-hour game. After you beat it, you do get like this boss rush mode. So if you're still like hankering for wanting to play more, you do get to have more stuff to do. And if you just want to go through back through all the other gameplay stuff, you can do that too. But yeah, that's my thoughts on this game. This review went a lot longer than I expected, but I just had so much emotion about this game. I want other people to enjoy this game as much as I did. What do you guys think? You think this game will be something you'll actually play? Something you think it would be good? Do you think it sucks? Do you think this is a waste of time? Do you think there are other games you could be playing right now? Let me know in the comments below. Please like, share, subscribe, hit the little bell notification to get new video updates. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.